For decades, the internet had a glaring blind spot. We built a network capable of firing information across the globe in milliseconds, but we forgot to include a native way to move actual value. If you wanted to send money to another country, you still had to ask permission. You needed a bank, a credit card network, or a wire service. Every digital transaction was tethered to a middleman who held the power to approve, delay, or completely block your money. Trillions of dollars move through this invisible plumbing every single day, and it all routes back to a handful of centralized hubs, massive data centers controlled by a fraction of the population. We had digitized modern civilization, but we left the architecture of trust in the analog world. Authority still lived strictly inside a vault. Long before Bitcoin existed, an underground group of cryptographers and programmers saw this exact danger.
They called themselves the Cypherpunks, and they warned that routing all digital payments through central servers would inevitably create the ultimate surveillance machine. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, they wrote code in the dark, trying to invent a private, autonomous form of digital cash. They built fragments of an idea, testing different mathematical models to see if money could exist without rulers. But they kept crashing into the same wall, the double spend problem. Because a digital file is just data, it can be copied infinitely. Without a bank acting as a central referee to deduct a balance from one account and add it to another, there was no way to stop someone from spending the exact same digital coin twice. Mathematics alone couldn't seem to solve it. Every failed experiment proved to the financial world that digital money required a human authority to keep the books straight. Then the bedrock of that financial world began to fracture. In the fall of 2008, the global economy seized up, and the very institutions trusted to safeguard people's wealth were suddenly begging for a lifeline. Governments responded by printing enormous sums of emergency money to rescue banks they deemed too big to fail. The watchdogs were bailing out the entities they were supposed to be watching. The crisis exposed a critical vulnerability in the foundation of modern society. Entrusting a small group of human beings with the management of global wealth created a single point of failure for civilization. In the middle of that panic, a message appeared quietly on an obscure cryptography mailing list. The author used the name Satoshi Nakamoto. They didn't pitch a company or ask for investors. They just posted a 9-page technical paper proposing a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Satoshi solved the double spend problem without a central bank. The software distributed identical ledgers to thousands of independent nodes. To agree on ownership, these computers linked data using cryptographic hash chains. Every node verifies the math. If someone fakes a transaction, the network rejects it. The architecture removed the need for a trusted third party. By replacing human administrators with an unbreakable protocol, trust was distributed across the entire crowd. When the network first booted up in early 2009, nobody noticed. The digital coins had absolutely zero financial value. The entire system was kept alive by a handful of programmers running experimental software on loud, overheating machines in the middle of the night. It took over a year for anyone to treat it like actual money. A programmer famously convinced someone on a forum to send him 2 Papa John's pizzas in exchange for 10,000 bitcoins. That simple trade proved the code could operate as a medium of exchange in reality. There was no PR department, no launch event. The network expanded outward purely because the mechanism functioned exactly as Satoshi wrote it. And then, just as the experiment started gaining traction, the creator vanished. Satoshi Nakamoto handed over control of the code repository, sent a final email, and went completely silent. Without a CEO to subpoena or a founder to arrest, the network continued to hum. It grew from a niche hacker experiment into a global financial layer, running continuously as major corporations and sovereign nations plugged into its grid. The creator's disappearance served as the final, essential component of the architecture. By removing the leader, Satoshi ensured the system truly belonged to no one. Deep inside the very first piece of data ever processed by the network, the Genesis block, Satoshi permanently embedded a timestamp, a message cut from a London newspaper, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. That hidden message points to a very uncomfortable reality for traditional finance. We now have a blueprint proving that securing a global economy doesn't require a marble building or a board of directors. We have to decide what anchors our civilization moving forward. Do we place our faith in the physical institutions of the past, Or do we surrender control to the cold, decentralized certainty of mathematics? Whoever wrote the code is a ghost, but the machine they turned on is still running,